What is up, fellow thermonuclear AFers? I am Dan Valley coming at you with some Kevin Durant breaking news. But first and foremost, before we get started in this video, please, it would mean a lot to me if you hit that subscribe button. Also hit the like and provide any comments. I'm here to have a positive discourse, nothing that's overly hostile. Feel free to disagree, but be kind. But seriously, subscribe to the channel, like these videos, helps us out a ton. But let's get to the latest Kevin Durant breaking news here. Shams Charania is reporting from The Athletic that a new team has entered the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. He writes, recently a new team has shown interest in Durant. The Memphis Grizzlies, these league sources tell The Athletic. Fresh off a 56-win season, the Grizzlies have made new inquiries to the Nets about Durant. Those sources added, Memphis has 5 first-round picks available, 4 unprotected selections of its own, and 1 protected via Golden State in 2024 to utilize in a trade, as well as young players like Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane, Zaire Williams, Brandon Clark, Kennedy Chandler, and David Roddy. Also, Shams added that after Kevin Durant's trade request officially became official, that John Morant had tweeted easy money, which everyone knows that easy money sniper is Kevin Durant. So they make those ties to it. And finally, Charania said that the Grizzlies so far have been unwilling to include Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr. in any trade talks and prefer instead to flip their bevy of draft picks. Other teams were mentioned in this. The Raptors, the Celtics, the Heat, and the Suns are all kind of tangentially involved. The Raptors still won't trade Scotty Barnes. The Celtics offered Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a first. The Hawks offered John Collins, DeAndre Hunter, and a first. The asking prices that are being reported are like rather low. There are very good players involved. John Collins, all-star caliber. But I think this leads me to believe that some teams think Durant is eventually going to be sent out for less than Brooklyn wants, which I would probably agree with. Some of these packages are too low. And look, the Jaylen Brown offer, if that was on the table, Brown, White, and a first, like that's a real offer. But for the Grizzlies specifically, should they be involved and can they even pull off a deal? I don't find it a coincidence that this is being reported 2 days before Danny Green can be aggregated in another trade. This report's coming out on August 22nd. Danny Green can be aggregated with other players as part of a bigger deal, August 24th. And his expiring salary matters even if he's not going to play next season because it's a nice salary anchor. If you're Memphis, though, you need to cobble together like between $35.2 and $35.3 million to take Kevin Durant back. That's like, if you're not including Jaren Jackson Jr., that's challenging, I will say, but it's not impossible. You have to give up Steven Adams, basically. So you have Steven Adams making that big number at $17.9 million. And then you have Dylan Brooks. That gets you to almost, 30. You're at $29.4 million. And if you include Danny Green in there, you're at $39.4. So those 3 larger contracts, because if you're not trading Jaren Jackson Jr., you can't trade Tyus Jones right now. You're not trading John Morant. Clearly, he also signed an extension, so it'll be tough to trade him right now. So you have the meat and potatoes. It would probably have to be Steven Adams and then Brooks or Green, if not both, depending on what other money's going out. If they just want it to be picks, like you're probably looking at, this would be the offer if they're willing to uncork all their draft equity. You'd go Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks, Danny Green, Zaire Williams, and then Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, and then all the picks. So 4 of your own, it'd be 23, 25, 27, and 29. And then you have Golden State's 2024 pick that's top 4 protected. So you could go 5 first-round picks plus, let's say, Zaire Williams and then Jake LaRavia and David Roddy plus salary filler, basically. I mean, Dylan Brooks is good. Maybe the Nets value him for his defense. And he does have like some off the dribble pizzazz on certain nights. But the crux of the offer would be you can give the Nets 5 first-round picks, up to 4 of them are unprotected, plus that Golden State pick. And then are they willing to accept that? Plus, Zaire Williams has to be in this deal. If you're not getting Desmond Bane or Jaren Jackson Jr., like the Nets have failed there, or Kevin Durant just has all the leverage and they're trying to get rid of him. I don't think that the Nets would do that. It's a real offer. I want to make that clear. If you're including 5 first-round picks and you're trading picks into the distance for 2029, that's a real offer. I just think Brooklyn wants more of an immediate bump from the package, and having Dylan Brooks and Zaire Williams, then maybe a couple rookies in there, I don't think that's going to qualify as an immediate bump. I'm a big believer that the Nets are eventually going to have to concede on that front, and that if they really want the fringe all-star talent, they need to circle back to the Hawks with John Collins or the Celtics with Jaylen Brown. And to this point, it seems like New Orleans won't trade Brandon Ingram for Kevin Durant. What this also all says, because, and I'll use Desmond Bane, I kind of get, we understand why John Morant's untouchable. And I kind of get why Jaren Jackson Jr. is untouchable. You'd want to pair him with Kevin Durant. And then Desmond Bane, yeah, it'd be ideal to keep him. But if you're not including Bane, and also if you're not including Brandon Ingram, if you're New Orleans, and if you're not including Scotty Barnes for sure, if you're Toronto, and maybe you wouldn't anyway, this also tells me that Durant has yet to expand his list of preferred destinations from Miami and Phoenix. And that's a big deal. There have been some rumblings that he would welcome the opportunity to play in Boston. And that might sort of explain why Jaylen Brown is on the table. So it does. Let's just throw those three teams in there and say it's Boston, Miami, and Phoenix. I think Phoenix would be the destination that benefits most. Like, they might be the championship favorite with him. You'd probably make the same case with the Heat or the Celtics even, but I would, my own personal bias, I'd rather just see him in Phoenix. That would be the most entertaining landing spot for me. But Memphis is like super intriguing. If you have Jaren Jackson Jr. when he's healthy, John Morant and Kevin Durant, and then you're somehow able to keep Desmond Bane, that's like an absurd top four. And as part of this deal, like, you're not obliterating your entire depth because Tyus Jones is not included in the deal. You could get away in theory with the Nets if you're including enough draft equity in young players. Would they let you keep Dillon Brooks just because he is extension eligible? He's going to be a free agent. I just don't know. Like, let's just say it's 5 first-round picks, and the Grizzlies say, hey, we're going to give you Jake LaRavia, Zaire Williams, even Brandon Clark. He's extension eligible too. I don't envision the Nets having, I want to make this clear, and I think Grizzlies fans will take exception to this. The Nets are not going to have supreme interest in Brandon Clark or even maybe Kennedy Chandler. I think they'll really like David Roddy. He's super intriguing as sort of this, like, he's smaller, but he can play up really big. And if he hits his threes like he did during his final year at school, I think that's intriguing. But they would do this for the picks and Zaire Williams. And then if you're including, David Roddy, and like if you're just including the rookies you took this year in David Roddy and Jake LaRavia specifically, or two of Kennedy Chandler, David Roddy, Jake LaRavia, plus Zaire Williams, plus 5 first-round picks. I know I'm talking fast. There's a lot to work through here. But let's say that's the meat and potatoes of the offer, is it's 5 first-round picks, 2 of David Roddy, Jake LaRavia, and Kennedy Chandler, and then Zaire Williams. That's, like, you can get to the money without including Dillon Brooks still. You might have to move some other players involved in this on the roster, but you could then have Dillon Brooks, Tyus Jones, Kevin Durant, John Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., Desmond Bane. That's an absurd team. I don't know if I would call them the favorite in the West still, but the Grizzlies would become like one of the, with Durant next season specifically, if you tell me Jaren Jackson Jr. gets to play in, give me 60 games, give me 55 games of Jaren, just tell me he's healthy for the playoffs. That's a team that's going to be scary and one of the foremost title favorites. If I'm Memphis, would I give up the draft equity to get Kevin Durant without knowing whether he wants to stay? That's the question here. I probably wouldn't. I need to know that Kevin Durant's going to be committed and not request a trade again after next season. And let's just say Kevin Durant's open to playing with John Morant, open to playing in Memphis. Memphis is a great market, by the way. Memphis is a great place, great food there, fantastic fan base. Hopefully Grizzlies fans are watching this. And the way that John Morant has bought into and built up the culture around that organization and just inside the city, maybe there's sort of like the Dame-esque there, where if Kevin Durant came, maybe he would just love it because John Morant is so ingrained there. And that team was fucking fun last season. The Nets were fucking miserable. The Grizzlies were fucking fun. So I would absolutely want to see it. If you're the Grizzlies, you have to ask yourself, though, if you're really trying to keep Bane, like, are you going to include some swaps in there as well? Like, it could be a situation where it's 5, like, are you going 5 first-round picks and a couple swaps, plus some of the youngsters? I still think I would do it because if you're getting to, like, the core, this isn't like the Suns, and they would have to give up all the picks anyway. I'm trying to think of a good example. It's not a team that would be left without upside if Durant came here, because let's just say they keep Desmond Bane. I'd be shocked, but let's say they keep Desmond Bane and Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant. Those guys haven't even entered their prime yet. And so there's like a nice, more natural segue here to Durant maybe taking on a smaller role, or as he ages and perhaps not being as good, like the team is still going to be able to not lift him up, but they're going to be able to be one of the foremost contenders for the duration of Durant's contract because they're kind of already tracking in that direction. So I fave this idea. Color me skeptical that it happens just because the asking price, I imagine the Nets will demand Jaren Jackson Jr. or Desmond Bane in this. If one of those players isn't sent out in this deal, I would be shocked. I understand the Grizzlies not including either one in this deal, though. I also remain skeptical that they would go as far as 4 or 5 first round picks, excuse me, plus their full boat of youngsters that don't include Bane or Triple J, if they don't think Kevin Durant wants to come. So let's monitor this. They're an interesting team to throw into the mix. Let me know what you think about Kevin Durant to the Grizzlies. Throw out what your best offer would be in the comments. And please remember to hit like and subscribe to this channel if you are new.